many, many, many more who see the big lie. Yeah, they're scared to death that we're going to figure them out. Hey there, legacy media networks. Got news for you. You blew it. Once you lose their trust, you can't get it back because you won't be trusted anymore. All right, that said, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you're situated on this great, big, beautiful blue globe floating through the void of Yah's creation. It is the 8th of April, 2025. I'm your host, vonKleist, and these are the WTF reports. And right off the bat, the WTF reports are brought to you in part by the Wave Watch. It's Rife technology that you can wear on your wrist. If you're not aware of Rife technology, please do some research. Listen up and get yourself educated, because that's technology right on par with Nikola Tesla. And, the Wave Watch is a Rife machine you wear on your wrist. And, I'm not here to tell you that it's going to cure or treat or anything like that. This is for your informational and educational purposes only. I highly recommend that you look into Rife technology, Rife machines, and then check out the Wave Watch, because that's something that you might be a little interested in. Anyway, that said, like I said, good day, whatever part of the day it is that you're listening. And I thank you for doing so. Okay, where do we start today? There's so many things going on. Of course, now they're talking about this rare wolf that has been now resurrected from extinction. And it makes me stop and think, I wonder how many other species that they can bring back from extinction. Can they bring back the dodo bird? Can they bring back the woolly mammoth? Can they bring back dinosaurs like in the movies? I don't know, but I can't help but think. I remember about 30 or 40 years ago when they announced that they had successfully cloned a sheep, and they brought out Dolly the sheep. I don't know how some of you may not be old enough to remember that, but I remember that. And the question mark popped over my head. You know, we saw it on the news. Dolly the sheep. Here's a full-grown sheep. Now wait a second. If they had been successfully cloning this animal, how is it they waited until it was fully mature before they rolled it out? I would think they would bring out a little lamb and say, look what we did. We got a cute little baby lamb here that we just cloned. But no, they waited until it was completely mature. So that makes me think that, well, maybe they were holding back on some information. And if they were holding back on information then, of course, they would never hold back information now. No, they would never do that. So anyway, I'm keeping my eyes open on this particular news story. So I just thought that was rather curious. Not earth-shaking news or anything like that. I just thought it was kind of an interesting story. Anyway, in other news, of course, there was a huge bust in Florida of a pedophile ring and child pornography, and the overwhelming majority, according to the news conference, involved infants. Really sick stuff. Now, I got to tell you, I know I may be banging the drum ad nauseum, but humanity is on the table now. I mean, are we going to go extinct? Seriously, I mean, that's a serious question, because if we don't get our act together, if we don't clean up our behavior, we're going to go extinct. And we'll probably end up in a big war and take most of the earth with us. So, I mean, and I hate to be gloom and doom about this, but this is a thought that I'm sure is percolating in the back of most people's minds. Where is this world going? And I feel terrible for the young people today, because, I mean, they're getting no positive influence whatsoever. Everything is gloom and doom and negative, et cetera, et cetera. Teen suicides are way up. I mean, and then there's the issue about, the attitude towards marriage and having children, raising a family. Nobody wants to raise a family anymore. Nobody wants to have kids anymore. I mean, that's why I'm saying, will we go extinct if this pattern continues? And then you couple that with all the stuff that's going on with, LGBTQ and transgender and all this other stuff. I mean, so much of this is going on. And the number one thing in my mind, I mean, if we could clear up and, void the entire world of one particular cancer of the mind and heart and spirit, it would be pedophilia. I mean, seriously. I mean, we know all about, the fact that those Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and the honeypot videos and P. Diddy, and those are just the tip of the iceberg. Those are the only ones that got any publicity. There are a lot more out there. There are many, many, many Epstein Islands all over the world and little encampments, et cetera, et cetera. As a matter of fact, there was I saw a post of a police body cam. They went to a daycare center, and they were looking for a bunch of children that had gone missing. And when they knocked on the door, at first the person didn't want to let them in. They were asking for the proprietor of the daycare center. Oh, well, she's not here right now, and no, you can't come in. And anyway, the police were very persistent, and they were able to get into the house, and they found a hidden doorway that went down to a basement. And by the way, the person who'd answered the door said, we don't have a basement here. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, the police found the basement, and they found about 25 children down there. And this is just, at a daycare center. Okay? I mean, how many daycare centers around the country are involved in this type of activity? And if you want to deny it, fine. You go ahead and deny it. Stick your head back in the sand. But the point is that if we've got 800,000 children that go missing every year from CPS, and those are numbers that are out there. Do your research. If you got 800,000, more than 750,000 children go missing just from CPS, think about all the children that are brought across the border or have been being brought across the border for the past 4 years under the Biden-Harris administration. How many of those kids went into, shall we say, got disappeared? This is disgusting. I mean, the numbers around the world, they say that 8 million children go missing every year. And where do they go? What happens to them? Well, yeah, there's the slave labor trade. They say that some of these kids get, hauled into some factory and they got to work, and, they end up having to send money to the cartels or whatever the story is. But the point is that there's a large number of them that get sucked into this disgusting, vile, evil, pedophile, and I even bring up the satanic ritual stuff. That is very real. And again, this is one of the things that it brought me to the edge of my sanity when I found out about this stuff. Back about, 20-odd years ago, when Joyce and I were the American Gulf War Veterans Association, we were meeting with veterans and military personnel and police officers, elected officials, et cetera, et cetera. And as we traveled around the country, sometimes, some of the vets would come up to us and hand us some very interesting documentation, sometimes in plain manila envelopes. And one afternoon, a vet came up to Joyce and handed her a document. When we got home after our little mini tour, we started going through all this stuff, and one of these documents contained records of, shall we say, sub-projects of MK Ultra and what they were doing with little children. These kids that were on the back of the milk carton kids. You remember them in the 80s and 90s. All these children had gone missing. Well, many of them were, shall we say, inducted into these programs in MK Ultra, and they fell into three different categories. They were either made into trained assassins, much like Jason Bourne, or they were basically programmed to be suicide bombers. Okay, but the overwhelming majority of these children, unfortunately, were brought into the sex trade, and this is from MK Ultra. All right, now these are documents, and this is during a period of time in the early 2000s when I was traveling all over the country, and I had lots of speaking engagements, and many of them I was rubbing elbows with people who I was running into all over the country, and one of them was Ted Gunderson. Ted became a good friend of mine. We after the speaking engagement, we'd end up back at the hotel having a bite to eat and a drink or something, and we'd end up talking, and we would talk for hours. And sometimes this topic of sex trafficking and satanic worship and all that stuff came up. And we were comparing notes. And what he had to tell me about what was going on, this has been going on for decades and decades and decades in this country. This is not conspiracy theory. But anyway, this is one of the reasons why, I almost lost it, because that dovetailed into a lot of the documents that Joyce and I had seen. And when we read them, we wept openly. This is a cancer of humanity. This has got to stop. So I don't know why. I just wanted to throw that out there because I found that very disturbing. It's in the news right now. Huge press conference down there in Florida. And they found millions of videos involving children and infants. And this is disgusting. Anyway, I don't mean to start off with such a negative thing here, but that's a major issue, and we have to face it. We have to face it. We cannot be in denial about this. You know, this is the most important issue that I think that we could possibly address. Because I guarantee you, if we were to address this and really go after this, go after the child sex trafficking, yes, go after the satanic cults that are, you know, involving sacrifices, if we put all of our efforts into clearing that up, I think everything else would fall into place. I really do. Anyway, I wanted to get that out there because we as a people, as a species, we got to do this. Because if we don't, I mean, the writing's on the wall. You know, I mean, I said years ago, you know, if God blesses America, he owes Sodom and Gomorrah an apology. Think about that, folks. I mean, that's where we're at. You know, our whole society has been redirected through the media and through newspapers and the news media, broadcast media. I mean, our values are all messed up. We've got to somehow get back to center and understand that we're not here to make as much money and have as much stuff as possible. That's not why we're here. We're here to help one another. We're here to progress. We're here to make the world a better place. And I remember, you remember the movie Ghost? The very, very, very end of the movie, when Sam, all of a sudden, Molly and what's her name, Demi Moore and Whoopi Goldberg were sitting there, and then all of a sudden they can hear him and they can see him, and so Sam turns to Molly as the light is beckoning him, and he says this.
It's amazing, Molly. The love inside, you take it with you.
It's amazing, Molly. The love inside, you get to take it with you. And that, as far as I'm concerned, that's the truth. You know, I remember the last lyric in the Beatles' Abbey Road album. Remember, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make. And I've stood by that for all my life. You get what you give. Karma is real. And if love isn't part of your decision-making process, then you need to rethink your decision. I'm sorry. You know, and I realize I sound utopianistic, you know, and idealistic and all that. Well, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with wanting the ideal? What's wrong with wanting to make this world a utopia? I mean, that's what we were given in the first place until we all messed it all up. You know, I don't mean to get all esoteric about it, but I mean, there's a difference between right and wrong and you know, darkness and light and good and evil. We have to choose, and we have to live that. Now, I'm not here to proselytize or anything like that, but I'm just talking common sense here. And I just see the world, you know, it's just, they've lost, I don't know, the world has lost its rudder, its centerboard. We're sort of like adrift, and we go wherever the media tells us to go. You know, I mean, I remember on MSNBC, I don't know.
Well, and I think that the dangerous, you know, edges here are that he's trying to undermine the media.
Talking about
trying
Trump.
to make up his own facts. And it could be that while unemployment and the economy worsens, he could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think. And that is our job. That is our job. That is our job. That is our job.
Do you get it yet, folks? Yeah, that's the way they see it. That's the way the folks in the mainstream media see it. That's their job to tell you what to think. And unfortunately, most Americans, and yes, the rest of the world, they go along with it. Oh yeah, if they said it on the news, it must be gospel truth. But no, they're not. It's not. And that's something else that yours truly has been screaming about for years. The Smith-Mundt Act. It's very, very important that people know what that is. Back in 1948, the FCC put into effect the Smith-Mundt Act, which made it illegal to propagandize the American people in broadcast media. Now, it was okay to do it overseas because there was a Cold War going on and blah, 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 blah. But it was illegal to propagandize the American people. Well, guess what? In 2012, President Barack Obama signed the National Defense Authorization Act, and hidden in there was the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, which basically rescinded the Smith-Mundt Act. So it made it legal for them to propagandize, in other words, to lie to you, the American people. Now, we know that they've been doing that for a long time. I mean, I remember what happened in Oklahoma City back in 1995 with, the blowing up of the Murrah building. And, of course, when the original newscasters all got there, they told you the truth about what was going on. But then the media got there, the networks and the FBI, and then they started to massage and twist and propagandize. So anyway, the point is that, yeah, there are a lot of people that don't trust the mainstream media. And, well, we should not trust the mainstream media because they've been lying to us. That's why, this whole thing with the internet is forever. And that's why I collect all these audio receipts. I've been doing this now for, a year and a half, every single day, collecting audio receipts so we can catch them in their hypocrisy and their lies and their subterfuge and their propaganda. Anyway, I know I'm on a rant here, but I mean, this is necessary, folks. People have got to somehow pull the scales off of their eyes and start paying attention, because your children and your children's children and your children's children's children depend on you participating. Because I hate to think of, another 10 or 20 years down the road, if humanity is able to survive that long, and they look back upon this generation and curse us for sitting on our hands and remaining silent when we could have done something. We could have turned this thing around. But we were so concerned with March Madness, and I'll be the first to admit, yeah, I watched the game last night. Yep. Okay, I enjoy that, but that's not my priority. I mean, my gosh, you got people, they go out to the football games in the dead of winter, stripped down to nothing but a Speedo, and they paint their body the colors of their team, and they're out there in sub-zero temperatures screaming their heads off. Boy, I'd love to see that much spirit behind, trying to change this world. But it's okay. And that's another thing. Basketball. Okay, we're getting up on the NBA playoffs. We just had the March Madness, the NCAA. How come there's no racism in basketball? How come there's no racism in football? And think about that. They all work together to achieve a common goal. They want to win the game. And so, racism, forget that. No, put that in the back burner because we got to win this game. How come we're racist other than that? How does that work? I don't know. Yeah, but it's a point to ponder. Anyway, okay, I'm going to shift gears a little bit because a lot of one of the big stories in the news right now are the tariffs. Everybody was screaming a week ago, not even a week, about a week ago, when Trump said, it's going to be Liberation Day and we're going to announce all these tariffs. And everybody started to lose their cookies. He's going to destroy the economy. He's going to destroy everything. And we're going to, oh gosh, let's just let this thing play out. Oh, I got a caller here. Okay, I'm going to put that caller on hold there for a second here. But this whole thing with the tariffs, people got to sit back and just wait for a little bit. We got to see how this is going to work out, because tariffs, and again, if you forget your history, you're destined to repeat it. And the simple fact is, if you look at the history of this country, we ran this country on tariffs for the first 150 years. We didn't have taxes, income taxes, until 1913. The 16th Amendment, was very, it was passed, but there's a lot of questions about how that was passed. But the point is, we didn't have income tax, and we were doing quite well because we were running the country on tariffs. Well, as they say, if you forget your history, you're destined to repeat it. Well, I encourage everybody to check out the history and realize that, yes, tariffs are what made this country wealthy and powerful. And it can happen again. And like I said, you know, when Trump announced this Liberation Day last week, and all the mainstream media, and of course, all the Democrats are saying, oh, he's going to destroy the country. No. You know, I mean, give it a break. You know, give it a chance to work itself out. And now, well, you got over 50 countries now are banging on Trump's door, say, yes, we want to talk to you. We want to straighten this out. We want to straighten it out. Yeah, I think it's going to work out. So all you folks that are protesting and screaming about Trump, oh gosh, those rallies over the weekend, I've been looking at some of the videos. I can't believe how stupid some of these people are. I just can't. But anyway, that said, I was going to get into an issue about these tariffs, but I'm going to put that on hold. Maybe I'll save that for tomorrow because I am very pleased to bring onto the broadcast here one of our supporters. And if you're a regular listener, you know I've been talking about Get More Tank. I've been talking about that since day one. So I've been using that stuff for, I guess since last June, I guess it was, May or June. And the stuff works. And I wouldn't have it as a sponsor. I wouldn't be doing business with a company if I didn't know it was a good product. And so that was the first product I brought on board for supporting the WTF reports. And joining me on the phone here is Andy Stuart. And Andy Stuart, he's the guy that brought it to my attention, and I'm so glad that he did. Andy, how are you doing? Well, what happened? Where did he go? Oh, I guess he disconnected. He'll call back in a minute. Anyway, okay, well, maybe I will get into the tariffs. I was going to have Andy join us, but if he calls in, I'll bring him right back on. Anyway, there was an article in regard to these tariffs written by Tanvi Ratna. Yeah, I think I'm getting that right. And, there he is. Okay, I'll save that for maybe tomorrow. Okay, joining me on the line here is Andy Stuart from Get More Tank. Andy, are you there? Can you hear me? Let's see. Can I hear you? Let me see.
Dave, I think you got me.
There we go. Okay, I can hear you now.
Yeah, but it's Mike. It's not Andy.
Oh, okay. Hello, Mike. Oh, okay.
Okay, I'll hang up when Andy calls.
Well, I don't know if he can call if you're on the line. I don't know how this system works. This is
okay. I'll get off.
Oh, there he is.
I want to talk to you about.
There he is. Okay, here's Andy. Okay. Hello, Andy Stewart.
Hey, Dave vonKleist.
There we are. Okay, I'm getting used to this phone system here. I had Mike called in. Right. You called in, then Mike called in. Now you're calling back in. Okay, cool.
Yes,
anyway,
sir.
I was just setting the table with this. Like I was telling the listeners, I started using Get More Tank. I guess it was last June or something. And again, I don't promote a product unless I know it works, and this stuff works. And my personal experience, at your advice, I took 2 of the tablets, put them in my gas tank, and I filled it up and let it run. And by the end of that first tank, I noticed right away that I had a lot more power in my car. And when I hit the gas, it goes. And then after working through the package of tablets of Get More Tank, my mileage is up about 17-ish%, depending upon how I drive. But this stuff works. So right off the bat, Andy, how did you get involved with this, and where did this stuff come from? Because I'd never even heard about it until about a year ago, and from what I understand, it's only been available to the public for about a year and a half. So where did this stuff come from?
That's about right. Well, it's actually the genius invention of a guy from California who grew up at his dad's RV dealership, and he told me that by the time he was 13, he was spending more time working on RVs and sitting in the classroom learning algebra. So eventually he found his life's passion of working on engines, and he was the Tide NASCAR engine or crew chief for 19 years.
Mm-hmm.
And during that time, he perfected his knowledge on the balance between fuel composition and engine technology. I mean, you can imagine how demanding. It doesn't get more demanding than that.
So above my pay grade.
Yeah, way above. He's like, yeah. I mean, if I spent 2.5 hours with him, and I felt like I walked out with a master's degree.
Wow.
And I'm not exaggerating. He's really one of America's great geniuses, as far as I'm concerned. But when he left Tide, he formed a partnership with a couple of his friends, and they started making this formula because for heavy industry. And this is in the late 90s. He was thinking that the people who would benefit from this would be, the kind of machinery that just gulps gallons of diesel fuel every hour. So the big earth-moving equipment, the big oil rigs. Like the smallest engine they were thinking about were Peterbilts. Like that to them was like a leaf blower to you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And so for years and years, for 20 years or more, they built this. I would call it a small business, because their business was really just from the Rockies out to the Pacific Ocean, and they did some business overseas. So eventually I found a person who knew him, and I said, I'd like to license this for the general public. And they had never thought of that. They thought what they were doing was, pretty good. And I said, well, there's 294 million passenger vehicles in the United States, plus all the service vans, all the plumbers, the electricians, the caterers, all these people running around town every day, and they would really benefit from this. So I struck an agreement with them, and so I called it Get More Tank. I call it Get More Tank. And I mean, it came up with a kind of a quirky name to try to make it easier for people to remember. But the thing about what makes this different is that it is and it's really important to understand this, it's a fuel catalyst, not a fuel additive. This is not the kind of stuff that you see sitting on the shelves at your favorite auto parts store. It's far from that.
Okay,
this is a fuel catalyst.
Okay, can you tell the listeners the difference between a fuel additive and a fuel catalyst? What is the difference?
Well, as Get More Tank is a fuel catalyst because it has what they call an oxidizing agent. So here's why this is important. Your engine combusts the fuel. So it's a combustion engine.
Right.
And you need oxygen, all right? You need oxygen to start a fire.
Right.
So what the key component in Get More Tank with this oxidizing agent is that it causes the fuel to be burned earlier in the combustion process. So when you burn it earlier, you end up burning up all the fuel. So there's nothing left over to clog up your engine or come out of your emissions pipe.
Oh, I get it.
Nothing left over. So that's why. So you're doing two things at the same time. That's why you get more fuel mileage, because you're using up all the fuel. So you get the benefit of every drop you're putting into your tank. You're using up all that fuel to drive your car or truck. The second thing is because there's no particulates left over, there's nothing left to clog up your engine. So it extends the life of your engine that way. Because what are the two main things that machines hate? Dirt and heat. So you're taking out the dirt, and because you're causing the fuel to be burned at a lower temperature, your engine will also last longer.
Well, I remember when I first started using it, and I talked to you about that, and you were instructing me on how to use it. And like I was just saying a couple of minutes ago, when you first introduced the Get More Tank to your vehicle, you put 2 tablets in and to a full tank of gas. Right. And I remember you telling me, well, that's the reason you're doing that is because you're going to basically get the engine accustomed to burning at a lower temperature, and you're also going to be blowing out all the garbage it's been building up. So, and this is, like
exactly.
I said, this is why I noticed, like I said, before I got to the end of that first tank, my car was running it was noticeably different, okay? And that was the first thing I noticed. Before I realized any of the mileage increase, I noticed that when I hit the gas, it went. I said, whoa, this is exciting, So, anyway, go ahead.
There's another part of it. Yeah, the other part of the that's really crucial, the formula for Get More Tank, it has a cleaning agent. So the first, that's why we ask you to use 2 tablets, because normally one tablet will treat 15 to 20 gallons, and that's about the average size of the average American passenger vehicle is about 15 to 20 gallons. So we tell people use 2 tablets on your very first fill up, because we want to accelerate the cleaning process.
Mm-hmm.
So I have the latest story is I have a guy who owns a 2009 Buick Lucerne with 126,000 miles on it. He said he went to the gas station, he filled up his tank, he put in 2 tablets of Get More Tank. He drove, made a stop, and then when he was driving home, he got in the driveway. All of a sudden, this black smoke was coming out of his tailpipe. The engine was running fine, but
Mm-hmm.
this black smoke was pouring out of the emissions pipe, and he said, it's cleaning out my engine. I'm just going to sit here in the driveway until the black smoke disappears. So he said, I just idled my car in the driveway for 20 minutes, and finally the black smoke went away. I mean, it cleans. There's 100 stories I could tell you just like that,
Mm-hmm.
where it's cleaning the crap out of your engine, and that's now unleashing the technology, the beautiful, smart technology our American engineers have come up with to build a car. That technology now can perform at 100%. So that's why when you stepped on the gas from that stoplight, you felt the difference.
Well, that's for sure. And by the way, I remember a couple months ago, I was taking calls, and I just opened up the phone lines, and this was an unsolicited call. I just wanted to say, okay, let's see, what do you have to say about today's news? And I'm going to share with you what this caller said. Here it is.
All right, let's go to Chicago. Say hi to Jerry. Jerry, thank you for holding. You're on the air. What do you got?
Hey, this is what I got for you. I started using that GetMoreTank.com back around May in 2 different vehicles. And I'll tell you what, my fuel economy went up in one of them, Toyota RAV4 2019, and went up about 4.6 miles per gallon. I keep track of it.
Wow, good for you.
And 2019 Ford Transit with a 5-cylinder inline diesel engine, I went from 15.8 average to 17.2. And I'm also putting it in my chainsaw. I haven't noticed the difference with the chainsaw. I can't figure fuel economy on that. But, hey, that's all I wanted to say to you. Have a good show.
Hey, Jerry, thank you so much for the endorsement. It's a good product. It really is. And not only that, I'm sure that everything's running better as well. I noticed that in my my Toyota Highlander. When I hit the gas, I almost feel G-forces, So, hey, thank you much for that endorsement, Jerry. I appreciate that.
So anyway, that was a call I took some months ago, and I thought I'd share that with you, Eddie.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It is an amazing product. We get this all the time from people telling us their stories about what a great job Get More Tank is doing for them.
Well, it's not just your car. I mean, I remember talking to you a couple months ago. I guess it was last summer. You were saying that you put it in your riding mower. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I've got this 2015 John Deere riding mower, and I put Get More Tank in the riding mower tank, and it's rated for 5 miles an hour when you press the accelerator all the way down. So I get in it, I run it, I'm in this part of the yard where it's wide open and flat, and I just, mash the accelerator down. And when I get to the end of the row and I turn and look, the grass wasn't cut all the way. There was like 2 lines of grass that were still there. And I thought for a second, you know what, I must be going faster than 5 miles an hour. The blades are not timed to go, any faster when you accelerate, So I said, I can't go all the way. I have to just, make sure that the blades are able to keep up with it.
Yeah. No, I can understand that. Yeah, of course. I mean, if you're going that much faster, that doesn't have enough time to cut all that grass. So I also talked to somebody.
So I had to turn around and go back.
Yeah. Well, in that telephone call I just played, the guy mentioned that he didn't know how it's affecting his chainsaw. I'm just curious to find out, when you get into these small engines, we just talked about a riding mower, regular push mowers, chainsaws, weed whackers, and stuff like that. Have you gotten any reports back on the performance of these machines?
Exactly. So what happens is that, especially on a chainsaw, you're going to get more power out of your chainsaw. I had a guy here, I had a tree come down in a storm, and it was too big for me to do by myself. So I had this guy come help me. And he pulled out this 25-year-old still saw. I mean, it was a beast. And so I started telling him about Get More Tank. And he said, well, let me try it. And this is my tank's empty, so let's put it. So he put it in. The look on his face, he looked up at me like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this thing is like a hot knife through warm butter. It was just, you're getting more power out of your any of the equipment. It works in any gas or diesel engine. So it works great in lawn equipment too. I mean, you just downsize the amount of the tablet that you're using. I get a big 5-gallon tank of gas for all my equipment, and we got a perf in the tablet, so you can snap the tablet in half.
Yeah.
So I just drop the tablet in the 5-gallon tank and fill it up, and I'm good for the summer. The other thing I'll tell you, about it, it has a fuel stabilizer element in it. So when I went to get out my leaf blower a couple of days ago for the first time in 5 months. It started on the third pull. It started like it was, I just had pulled it out yesterday. It was like, cool. I love this. I don't have to screw around with this fuel stabilizer and get that, we got to measure the stuff out. It's annoying, So the other thing I will tell you about this stuff works in diesel engines even better. But the other added benefit of it, it has, I don't know if you're familiar with a product called DEF. But DEF's important for every truck driver because the diesel fuel holding tanks that you see, on the side of the road, water collects at the top of these diesel fuel holding tanks. And the water then gets mixed in with the diesel fuel all the way through to the pump. And water's really bad for diesel engines.
Oh, yeah.
So they have to go buy a product called DEF, and they have to mix it in with their fuel tanks when they're filling up. You don't need to do that with Get More Tank. The DEF product's already mixed in, or is already a part of the formula. So if you're running a diesel engine, you don't need to worry about DEF when you use Get More Tank. Okay,
well, let me ask you, because I know that there are some long-haul truckers that listen to this broadcast, and they're probably going to want to know, well, what is the application? How would this work? If I got, a Big Mac truck, what's the application? What is the dosage, if you will? How much, if you've got two 100-gallon tanks on either side of your cab, okay, how much Get More Tank do you have to use, and what could be the possible benefit in the long run?
Well, if you had two 200-gallon tanks, you just would put 5 tablets in each tank, and you're done. We suggest you put the tablets in before you fuel up, because then the rush of the fuel into the tank will dissolve the tablets.
Yeah,
so by the time you're leaving the gas station, it's already mixed up. So like when I tell people, just put the tablet at the top of, for a regular car or van, just put the tablet at the top of the fuel tank opening and let the nozzle pump push it down in the tube. And then when you start pulling the trigger, that rush of fuel dissolves it. But for diesel truck drivers, you just drop 5 tablets in there and you're good to go. It's not a problem.
Okay, so 5 tablets, and with the discount, it ends up to $20 per packet, which has 5 tablets in it. So you'd spend $40 to treat the two 100-gallon tanks on a big wheeler, right?
That's to do the math. If you increase your truck's fuel mileage by 15 to 20%, how much money are you really saving in the end? You're saving a lot of money, and you're saving time because you don't have to pull over and fill up. You have more time.
Well, that's true too.
The other thing about it is, what my wife and I used to go on Saturdays to fill up our cars. Now we're going about every 10 days. So we don't go. We're going to the fuel pump less You don't have to go to the gas station all the time. That's the other part of your life that you get back is some time.
Mm-hmm. Well, the way I was looking at it, once you've treated your car, once you've introduced Get More Tank and you're using it on a regular basis, again, $20 when you get the discount, you get the 5 tablets for $20. So that means if you've got a regular car, you put 1 tablet in for each tank of gas, and so you spend $20 and you've got 5 tablets. That means 5 tanks of gas. The way I figured, if you're getting, 15 or 20% better, that means that last tank works out to be free. So, I mean, if I'm seriously, right. If you're getting 20% of 5 tanks is a tank, so that means that tank of gas, you end up, it ends up being free. So if it costs you $50 to fill your tank and it only costs you $20 to get more tank, you've already saved $30 in one purchase.
You just did one purchase.
Yeah.
Exactly. Here's the other thing about it, is that if you have a vehicle that requires medium or high-grade gasoline, you don't need that with Get More Tank. So in other words, you don't have to get 93 or 94 octane, which is what I was doing because I wanted a cleaner fuel in my car.
Yeah.
Now we just use regular gas, the 87 octane gas, and you're saving, between premium and in regular, that can be 60, 70, 80, 90 cents a gallon depending on where you live.
Well, you know what?
I mean, that's per gallon.
Oh, okay. See, I was not aware of that. Well, that makes perfect sense. I mean, if it's increasing your octane and your engine's performance, yeah, because I've been using the premium gas when I'm using this, and maybe that's I'm sure it didn't hurt, but yeah, if I can go back to using regular gas, then I'll do that. It'll save me, like you said, what are they, I don't know, maybe 40, 50, 60 cents per gallon, the difference in price between regular and premium, something like that.
Yeah,
wow.
I mean, so you throw that on top of getting essentially a free tank, that's where we're saving in our house $150 a month on gas. That's how much we're saving between our 2 cars.
Cool.
Between going from premium to regular and then not going, and giving up a whole, because our 2 cars together hold 34 gallons of gas. We're buying 34 gallons of fuel less per month. So that's, almost 400 gallons in a year.
Cool.
I know.
All right. Well, I'll tell you, like I said, I've been using this stuff since I guess it was in the spring, I guess it was. Boy, time goes by when you're having a good time, huh? Yet, I've been using this stuff for, since, April, May, right around in that time, because it was right when I introduced it to the listeners. And that caller, he said that he started using it in May. So that's right around the time that I started using it. So now I'm going to switch over, start using the regular gas, save some more money. So,
yeah, use 87. You don't need to do more.
Cool. Anyway, hey guys listening out there, if you want to get more tank, please go to our website. Go to TheWTFReports.com. Don't forget the word the, T-H-E. A lot of people forget to do that. I went to WT. No, you got to go to TheWTFReports.com and go to our sponsors page, and you'll see Get More Tank right there. And when you click on that, you're automatically getting a 10% discount. So the price goes from $22.22 down to a flat $20. And you'll get 5 tablets, and you can get started with Get More Tank and start reaping the benefits of this really good product. Let me ask you, now I know you've been doing this for a while. What has been the general response? I mean, this is just getting out into the general public, because this was only available on an industrial scale until about 2 years ago. Am I right on that?
That's correct.
Okay, so I'm sure you're starting to get some feedback. I know there was a group of auto mechanics that deal with restorations of cars, and I'm sure that they're not the only ones. What kind of feedback are you getting around the country from people who are starting using this on an industrial, if they're working in a car shop and they're rebuilding engines and race cars and stuff like that? Have you heard back from a lot of them yet?
Yeah, they think that Get More Tank is a great thing. In fact, there's a drag racing strip a couple hours from here, and the drag racers, they go this quarter mile or what. I'm not a drag racing guy. I don't know about this business, but what they they're claiming that this formula is knocking a whole tenth of a second off their time.
Really?
Which I guess in that world is, I mean, I'm not an expert, but they're saying that's what they're doing. So that's the only thing they did differently.
Well, yeah, in that sport,
that must mean something.
Yeah, well, it comes down to hundredths of a second in that sport. So a tenth of a second is pretty significant. Yeah.
Yeah, there's all kinds of people are using it. We have everybody who needs to save a buck. We have a number of like plumbers and electricians, guys running 15 to 20 vans in a month. I mean, if you can imagine, you're a small business owner and you're running these vans all the time, and they're mostly, in city driving. They're building up a lot of carbon in the engines and spending a lot of money on fuel. They're using it. They're ordering like 15 packs at a time. And it's making a difference in their bottom line.
Well, I could see why. And then there's also the issue, there are a lot of businesses out there that have a fleet of vans. Like, for instance, an HVAC company. They probably have maybe half a dozen vans that they send out to work on people's air conditioning or heating systems or something like that. And I would imagine that companies like that would save a ton of money if they were to introduce Get More Tank to their fleet.
Oh, I don't even. It's got to be a lot of money when you're running that number of vehicles, and you're probably filling up 3 times a week.
Yeah,
that is a lot of money going right out the door. That if you could eliminate 20% of those in a month. So if you're doing 12 fill-ups a month, if you could eliminate 2 of those, holy smokes! Over the course of a year, that's all cash falling right to your bottom line.
No, that's true. Well, I suppose sometimes, people are very skeptical. And that's understandable. People have been, manipulated and ripped off and, flim-flammed, et cetera, et cetera. So I know that there's always, when you're introducing a new idea or a new product, there's always the objections that you have to overcome. What's the number one objection that you get? Are there people out there that say, oh, this can't work? No, it's going to screw up my engine. No, I'm not going to put this in my car. I might break down because of it. I'm not going to ruin my engine. I don't know what that stuff is. How do you overcome some of those negative comments?
Well, that was exactly my first response when I was learning about this. I'm not putting this in my car. Well, there's 2 things I would tell you. One of them is and I think the most important thing is that the company that manufactures, and by the way, everything about Get More Tank is manufactured in the United States. The packaging and the tablets are all made here in the United States.
Excellent.
So we don't have to worry about tariffs. But there is $1 million liability policy that this company took out 25 years ago, and there's never even been a claim. It's because it works. It cannot hurt your engine whatsoever.
Okay.
The only thing that I would say is that if you've got a brand new engine that's one of these, multi-speed, high-tech engines, it's not going to help you. It's already that your engine's already, first of all, clean, and it's got all this whiz-bang technology in it. So I would say if you own, like one guy who he had a couple of years ago, had a 24 Denali, which has this it's an expensive car, but he has this hyper high-end technology in it. And he said it didn't help. I said, well, no wonder. It's not going to help a guy like you. So if you have a car like that, don't bother. But if you've got any other kind of car, if you got a car that's been on the road for a few years, the average age of the American car on the road is 13 years now. And you can only imagine the crap that's built up in these engines over time.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and the other thing is you have to wait. This is the other important part. And we tell this to every customer. You must wait until after the 3rd fill-up before your onboard computer recognizes the higher increased gas mileage, because that calculator that's figuring this out works way in the past.
Oh,
so
I get it.
It's not. So we have people say, well, I tried it and it didn't work. And I said, well, how many tanks did you use? Well, I'm still in my first tank. It's like, you have to wait. And once you get past the 3rd tank, it'll start to show. The engine will say, the computer will say, "Oh, wait a minute, something's going on here. I'm not using up as much fuel." But it's not. Same thing happened to me. These 2 tablets on the first tank at about 100 miles is typical, where people start to feel increased performance.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't until I was starting my 4th tank, when I got in the car and I filled up the tank for the 4th time, all of a sudden the miles to empty went from like 320 miles to 380 miles. Like, whoa, it's never done that before.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, you know. So it's still the same size tank. I'm using the same gasoline, so something had to be different. But it was at that moment that the computer said, "Okay, I give in. There's more. You're getting more mileage here."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well, that's exactly my experience as well. And for those of you out there who have not tried Get More Tank, I have a challenge for you. Next time you fill your tank, make note of what your odometer says. Okay, you want to get an idea of what kind of mileage you're getting from your vehicle. So make note. You start with a full tank. Make note of what your odometer says, and then as you work your way through, let's say you go down, 3/4 of a tank. You got 1/4 of a tank left. So you go next. Now what you do is you fill up your tank. You see how many gallons that you put in there, okay, and compare it to you want to. In other words, you want to make track of what your mileage is. Then, once you know that you're getting, like, say, okay, well, I'm getting, 16 miles to gallon, okay? Now you fill the tank and you put the 2 tablets of Get More Tank in, and you run that tank and then run the next tank. Then you make track of your mileage again, and you will see an improvement. There ain't no doubt about it. It can't not happen. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So for you listeners out there who haven't tried it and you're thinking about it, start off right now. The next chance you get, make a note of what your mileage is, because once you start using Get More Tank, you will see an improvement of your mileage. So anyway, once you throw out your website out there, because people are going to want to see the specs and all the data and everything, because that's all listed there. So give the people the website.
It's real simple. GetMoreTank.com. GetMoreTank.com.
Okay, and if you do decide to purchase, use the code REDPILL101, and you'll get the 10% discount. Or you can visit our website, TheWTFReports.com. Go to the sponsors page, and you can click there. The discount will be automatically added.
That's correct.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I'm so glad that you were able to join me today, and I'm hoping that the listeners are paying attention, because this is good stuff, folks. You can't not win on this. This is a win-win for everything. It's a win for your car because it's going to clean up the engine. It's going to be a win for your pocket because you're going to save money. And it's going to be a win because you're going to get to where you want to go a little bit quicker because your car runs better. So...
That's right.
All right, Andy. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the broadcast today, and we'll just, like they say, run it up the flagpole, see if somebody salutes.
Thanks, Dave, and thanks for all you do for us. You do such a wonderful job. We appreciate everything you do for us.
Well, thank you so much, and I appreciate what you're doing for the listeners here, because this is a good product and it deserves everybody's attention. Andy Stuart, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Dave.
All righty, God bless. All right, that's going to pretty much wrap it up for today's broadcast here, folks. I so much appreciate your listenership, and you can show your appreciation by doing business with the WTF Reports. Again, go to our website, TheWTFReports.com, click on the sponsors page, and do business with Patriots. We Patriots got to stick together. All right, that said, we're pretty much done on the Tuesday show. I'm Dave vonKleist, and I got to say thank you so much for your listenership. God bless you all. Stay safe, and above all, stay free. We'll see you tomorrow.
See the faces turn white as the people unite. Watch the roaches take flight as you turn